Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for April 21st, 2025 from the Derby Hill Hawkwatch. It was quite chilly in the morning with moderate to strong east-southeast winds, but at least we had a bit of sunshine. But throughout the morning, it clouded over, and by the midday, there was some rain and thunderstorms moving in that paused the count. Here we have two adult bald eagles that were chasing each other. Here we have a small raptor with rounded wingtips and a long tail. This is an accipiter, and we see that all the tail feathers are about the same length, giving it a very squared off tip to the tail. We see a small head on this bird. This is a sharp-shinned hawk, and we see a very messy vertical brown streaking to the underside, making this a juvenile. Sharpies were really the star of the show today with those southeasterly winds. It kept the flight low, and Sharpies were most numerous with over 150 of them. And along with other species like kestrels and harriers, we really had a lot of terrific looks at low raptors passing close to the North Lookout today. Here we have the top side of a raptor. We see it's brown overall on top, and we see a moderately long tail and very broad wings. So this could be one of a few different species, so we have to look a little bit closer. If we look at the tail, it has very thin banding. It doesn't have the wider banding that we would see on one of the aster or accipiters. Something like a northern goshawk would be a possibility with a bird that looks like this, but the tail banding is too thin. And if we look near the wingtip, we also see a pale area that would form a crescent that the light would shine through, because this is a juvenile red-shouldered hawk. Here we have a lanky hawk with a long tail, and we see some vertical teardrop streaking that's concentrated on the upper breast. This is a juvenile Cooper's hawk. Also notice the larger head of the Cooper's hawk compared to a sharp-shinned hawk. And if we look at the tail, we can see that the outer tail feathers, which tuck underneath, are shorter than the central ones, giving it a little bit of a rounded appearance. The weather wasn't right for broad-winged hawks to be forming large kettles today, but we had a decent movement of them in the morning, and they were coming through just like the accipiters, low and flapping, so we had some really terrific looks at broad-winged hawks, such as this adult. Notice on the adults, they have a lot of brown barring to the underside and a dark trailing edge to the wings. And with the top side view of the adult broad-winged hawk, we can see that distinctive tail. It looks like a dark tail with a wide white band. While the count was paused due to the rain in the midday, I saw this sharp-shinned hawk fly into a tree, and so I was watching it and got a little video clip. I wish I had kept the video going because I watched the Sharpie dive out of the tree into this bush, which was full of songbirds, and they all scattered. And then the Sharpie kind of pulled a U-turn and came into this little gap between the cottage and the bird feeder here and was coming straight at me at eye level. So I flinched and ducked out of the way, and it zipped by me just a few feet away and kept going. But it was a pretty cool experience, but I wish I had captured it on video. By around 2:30, the rain was done and we were ready for some more hawk-watching action. And it actually did brighten up quite a bit for a short period of time, but it wasn't enough to get any kettles of broadwings up, but it was enough to get some Sharpies and falcons moving. So we ended up with a decent afternoon, and there was some rain that moved in finally at the very end of the day that ended the count for good. Here we have a raptor with long, narrow wings that are held up into a V shape, and we see a long tail, and we also see a white rump because this is a northern harrier. Here we have the top side of a hawk that's shaped like a flying cross. We see that really long tail. We see a relatively large head and a blue coloration. This is an adult Cooper's hawk. Here we have a large, lanky, black and white raptor. This is an osprey, and this one has quite the bib to it, or necklace they call it, and usually it's the females that have this. Sharpies continued to move through low, and I could show you a lot of great photos that I got today, but this was one of the best. Here's a nice look at a juvenile sharp-shinned hawk. There were a small number of turkey vultures that got up and went today. Here's one of the more ragged-looking ones. Here we have a small raptor with pointed wings, so we should be thinking small falcon, and this one's light underneath with a distinctive facial pattern. This is an American kestrel. Here we have a raptor with long, skinny, pointed wings and a long tail, and a very distinctive plumage with a gray head, but overall white underneath otherwise, with black wingtips and a dark trailing edge to the secondaries. This is the adult male northern harrier. Here we have a small raptor with pointed wings, so another small falcon, but on this bird we see it's relatively dark underneath with a lot of dark streaking to the underside and a dark tail with some white bands. This is a merlin, one of 8 that we had today, the high count for the season. Here we have a small songbird that's a raspberry color overall with a forked tail. This is a purple finch, and we had a few hundred purple finches today. And I'll end it with this osprey that was staring us down at the end of the day. Taking a look at the eBird list, today we had 68 species. Taking a look at the hawk count report for our migrating raptor totals, today we had 30 turkey vultures, 10 ospreys, 3 bald eagles, we had 23 northern harriers, 151 sharp-shinned hawks, and 3 Cooper's hawks. For buteos, we had 2 red-shouldered hawks and 135 broad-winged hawks, and for falcons, we had 16 kestrels, 8 merlins, and 1 peregrine, for a total of 382 migrating raptors. That brings the April total to 40,398 and the season total to 58,701. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, it's looking cloudy with a high in the upper 40s and winds west at 10 to 20 miles per hour. There may even be a little bit of south in the wind in the morning, so we'll probably start at the north lookout in the early hours for the songbird morning flight. And then if the wind has gone straight west, we'll probably move down to the south lookout for the raptor flight. I would expect moderate migration with those conditions, but this time of year, that can be hit or miss with broadwing, so there can be a lot of fluctuation just based on whether or not you're getting broad-winged hawks, but overall it's okay conditions, not terrific, but not terrible. For Wednesday, it's sunny with a high in the low 50s, winds west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, so we'll probably be at the south lookout, but with that wind direction and a relatively light speed, I wouldn't be surprised if we have the flight line close to overhead, so Wednesday could be a decent day with moderate migration. And for Thursday, it's cloudy and warmer temperatures with a high in the upper 60s, winds south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So southerly winds should keep us at the north lookout, and hopefully we'll get some birds for Thursday. We'll keep an eye on that as we get closer. All right, well, overall it turned into a decent day of hawk watching. I know we were a little uncertain going into today. We had the right winds, but there was rain in the forecast. So we ended up with a decent flight in the morning, then a bit of a break in the midday with all of that rain, and then a decent flight for the late afternoon. So in the end, it ended up being an enjoyable day with a lot of really nice looks at low and close migrating sharpies and kestrels and harriers and even some broadwings. And I'd also like to say happy birthday to my grandma, who turns 90 years old today. And my parents also just celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary. And my niece Evie, Bobby's daughter, recently turned 4 years old. So lots of significant dates for the Brown family in April. We are still in peak raptor migration time, so I hope you can come out and join us soon out at Derby Hill. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.